Hello and welcome. We've been talking to various delegates about the possibilities and the opportunities of investing in Latin America and indeed in many countries in Latin America. We spoke to Tata Consultancy Services, Bajaj Auto amongst others who've got substantial presence and have found to their advantage the early advantage of going into the Latin American region. Joining me now is Rangaraj Viswanathan, former ambassador from India to many prominent Latin American countries. And let's understand from him what it takes to enter these markets, what it takes to win, and what are the things that you should be watching out for. Mr. Viswanathan, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. But before that, I would like to say that there is a need for understanding of what I call as the new Latin America. Because people have read history books and they know what happened, the political instability, economic crisis. But in the last couple of decades, Latin America has undergone a paradigm shift, a profound political transformation, a fundamental change in the market and mindset. So, today you have a new Latin America of political stability, economic growth and cultural confidence. So, I tell the Indians, forget about history. Look at the present Latin America and the future potential. How is it shaping? For example, if you take growth, after the financial crisis, Latin America bounced back with a bang, 6% growth. In 2011, it was 4%. Last year, it was 3.1. This year, it's going to be 3.8%. And it is a sustainable growth a projection in the decade to come. So, that is why there is a buzz in Latin America that this is going to be a decade of growth. This is going to be a Latin American decade. So, I tell the Indians that they have to look at the present and the future, and there is tremendous potential. Right. In last year, our trade would have been something about $25 billion, but this can easily be doubled in the next 3 years, because the growth has been generally about 20 to 30%.
So, what are the so when you say Latin America, or when we say Latin America, sometimes tends to assume a homogeneous entity, which it is not. What are the things that one should be sort of watching out for or be cognizant of?
Well, in terms of markets, you have the South America, you have Mercosur, and you have Central America, smaller markets, and Mexico, which is part of NAFTA. And Brazil, of course, is the leader. It's got 200 million population, $2 trillion of GDP, and that is the center for South America. Central America, there are small countries, there are 8 countries, but they are growing and there are opportunities. Mexico is part of NAFTA. So, when you set up a unit there to produce, it is not only for the 100 million people of Mexicans, but also for the larger market of NAFTA, United States and Canada. So, that is how you have to look at that.
Right. And in terms of culture, what are Indian companies or Indian entrepreneurs who want to venture into that part of the world, or any other entrepreneur who wants to venture, what should one be looking out for? Are there some cultural fits in between people and kinds of businesses or industries? Let's say, for instance, is tech sort of more prevalent in some Latin American countries? Could it be automobile manufacture like in maybe Mexico? What are the trends there?
Well, culturally, I tell the Indians that you have to be a bit less serious. You have to understand that the Latin Americans are fun-loving people. So, don't ask them to come and work on the weekend. They would prefer the beaches than an increase in salary. So, this is something important you have to understand and you deal with business. In the past, Indian business had always considered distance and language as barriers for business with Latin America. But now, there is this what I call as the new paradigm. Today, we have got about 24 Indian IT and BPO companies. They are operating in 16 out of 20 Latin American countries, employing 25,000 Latin American staff. Now, what do? The 25,000 Latin Americans do 12 hours of work and then pass on to the Indians to do the next 12 hours. So, for our IT companies which want to do global delivery 24/7, this is fantastic. This is complementarity.
The same time
they have
zone.
killed the distance and also they gain the advantage of time zone.
Right. So, what are the other areas? So, technology is clearly an important area, and companies like TCS have perhaps been at the vanguard of investing in Latin America, but are there any other newer areas?
The second most important area is pharmaceuticals. There are again about 20 pharma players of India are spread across Latin America, and some of them have set up manufacturing units in Brazil, in Mexico, and in Argentina. How the Latin American governments have been actively inviting and encouraging entry of Indian pharma companies, because our generic companies, they have helped the Latin American governments and the consumers to reduce the cost of health care. Apart from the pharmaceuticals, then our companies are going into energy, because Latin America has is a net exporter of energy, conventional crude oil,
Right.
shale gas, and also in biofuels, and also in minerals. So, they are endowed with a lot of minerals and food. South America, for example, they have got plenty of fertile land, abundant water, and they have best practices and technologies. So, and they can easily feed many more millions of Indians and Chinese in the years to come.
Right. So, as we conclude, one anecdote that you'd like to share with us, which I don't know, tells you about what the opportunity is and how India can, or Indians can perhaps integrate with that market.
Well, I tell the Indians that the greatest risk and serious personal risk of doing business with Latin America is falling in love. It has happened to a lot of my friends.
Okay.
They have ended up with Latin American spouses and boyfriends and girlfriends.
And they haven't come back?
And they haven't come back. And also, I tell them that even if you don't want to take the risk, you go to Latin America. Besides business, there is what I call as the business plus. You come back from your trip happier and younger.
Right, that's a great note to end on. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Viswanathan.
Thank you.
Thank you.